I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Vietnam Veterans News Podcast. News of interest about Vietnam veterans from a Vietnam veteran. Now, here's your host, Mack Payne.
This is Mack Payne here with episode 1769er of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. News about the Vietnam War and the brave veterans who served there, as told to you by yours truly, a Vietnam veteran. One of my favorite things to do on this podcast, in addition to telling you about the tremendous representatives of the Vietnam veteran generation, one that is as great as any that ever heeded the call of duty from its country. I like to report to you on activities around the country that honor the memory of Vietnam veterans. Going to share a story with you that comes out of Palatka, Florida. You probably don't know where Palatka, Florida is because it's a nice little town hidden away from all the tourists. Sits on the mighty St. Johns River. St. Johns River is almost a mile wide at Palatka. Unlike my hometown of Ocala, Florida, it has not been taken over by outsiders. When I grew up in Ocala, Florida, it had a stable population of 10,000 people. Lots of wide open spaces there. Today, the population of Ocala is pushing 400,000. I do not even like to go back to Ocala because all the places I remember when I was growing up have been taken over. Places like where I used to go squirrel hunting is now a shopping center. What used to be way out in the woods are now car dealerships and golf communities. The swamps that I explored with my good friends, the Mills brothers, on horseback, are now gated communities with condos, luxury homes, and golf courses all over the place. I can't go home anymore because my home has been stolen, but not so in Palatka. Palatka is about 60 miles northeast of Ocala, out there in the hinterlands, off the beaten track. They're doing something in Palatka that warrants our attention because it is a wonderful thing they're doing up there to honor Vietnam veterans, and all of them, starting from World War I. They are a town of murals. They're putting up murals there to honor veterans. Recently, a Vietnam-era veteran who is an artist went there to contribute his skills and artistry to those memorials. He normally charges big bucks, but in this case, he is doing it at no cost. There was a story in the Palatka Daily News about what's going on there with their murals. The title of the story is The Writings on the Wall. Subtitle is Vietnam Memorial Mural Gets New Additions Thanks to Flagler Man. That Flagler man's name is Daniel Rose. He's a Vietnam-era veteran. By the way, Flagler Beach is located about 40 miles southeast of Palatka. It's named after Henry Flagler, one of the men who started up Standard Oil Company alongside John D. Rockefeller. After he made all that money in the Standard Oil Company, he came to Florida and built the state, put in a railroad all the way down to Key West, built hotels all over the eastern coast of Florida. If you ever go up to St. Augustine, there's a college up there that used to be one of his main hotels. It's a magnificent thing. It is known as Flagler College. Imagine that. That's where Daniel Rose lives today, over in Flagler Beach, and he comes up to Palatka to do his artistry. This story was provided by none other than Brandon D. Oliver for the Palatka Daily News. Let's take a look at the story that tells us all about what they are doing in Palatka, Florida to honor its Vietnam veterans. Dateline, Palatka, Florida. One of Palatka's murals have been getting some new additions recently to further acknowledge Putnam County veterans who paid the ultimate price while in service to the United States. On Monday, June the 15th, 2020, Flagler Beach artist Daniel Rose was continuing the work he began last week at the Veterans Memorial Mural, which is located at the intersection of St. John's Avenue and 6th Street. I encourage anybody in the vicinity of Palatka, Florida, to go check it out. I guarantee you will be impressed. I say that from the pictures that appear on the podcast website, VietnamVeteranNews.com, over at episode 1769. There are two of them up there showing Leo Granger with Daniel Rose, and then another one showing Daniel up on the scaffolding doing his thing, painting on that mural. So please go over to the podcast website, look at those pictures so you know what I'm talking about. Continuing, Rose was painting the war headings over the different sections of the mural, which features scenes from American-involved conflicts since World War I. Last week, he began writing the names of nearly 30 veterans who were either prisoners of war, missing in action, or killed in action. I did 28 names the other day, and I'm going to do 5 war headings today, he said on Monday. Rose is doing the work for the Conley Snyder Mural Committee free of charge, and he also donated $100 to the Robert H. Jenkins Foundation, named for the Interlaken native who died in the Vietnam War after throwing himself on a live grenade to save his fellow Marines. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for that action that took his life. Just for your information, Interlaken is a little community about 10-15 miles due west of Palatka, deep in the heartland of Florida. Continuing, Rose, a member of the American Legion Post 146 in Oceanside, California, is an Army veteran and said he does what he can to be a proponent of veteran causes, which is why he decided to donate time, paint, and money to Putnam organizations. He must have started out in California and moved to Florida because he's a member of the American Legion Post in Oceanside, California. Continuing, Rose says, I am a Vietnam-era veteran, so I can certainly appreciate what Mr. Jenkins did. I support anything that supports veterans. The Conley Snyder Mural Committee began in 2015, and since then, more than 10 murals of varying topics have been painted throughout downtown Palatka. Committee Chairman John Alexander said the Vietnam Memorial Mural should be done after Rose finishes the lettering and Nina and Ed Matayunas finishes painting the Persian Gulf War section of the artwork. Alexander estimates the work should be finished within a week. That means maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. Things always seem to take a little longer than you think it will. Continuing. Work is done on the mural as money comes in, Alexander said, which is why it is painted in fragments. That is another good thing about these murals in Palatka. They're not borrowing money to do it. They're doing it as the money comes in, debt-free. Continuing. Despite it not being completed, veterans and their families still make trips to downtown Palatka to view the artwork, Alexander said. However, he laments some veterans can't bring themselves to view it. Some can't look at it, Alexander said. The minute they look at it, they can hear the sounds from the war. Another feature of the mural is Jenkins' picture painted above the scroll where Vietnam War veterans' names are drawn. Lee Granger, founder of the Jenkins Foundation, wants more local residents to acknowledge the men and women who serve their country, especially the ones who never made it home. Local residents might be surprised to know their neighbors, church members, or other people they frequently see are veterans, said Granger, a U.S. Army veteran. There are some people, Granger said, he did not even know they were veterans until he read their obituaries. He said he made a U-turn when he learned Rose was in town to paint and would be donating $100 to the foundation. Rose's donation was a pleasant surprise, Granger said, and left him at a loss for words. I felt real good when I received the call that Mr. Rose was here, Granger said. When I heard this, I was just speechless. Despite the mural finishing within a week, Alexander encourages families of service members who were missing in action, prisoners of war, or killed in action to submit their names to be added to the mural. For information or to submit a name, send him an email to admin@conleymurals.org. Conley is spelled Conlee. We request people of the community send their names of family members who gave their lives in service or are missing in action, Alexander said. My father's name is also up there. He died in World War II. I never met him because I was born on D-Day. June the 6th, 1944. That was 2 days before I was born on June the 8th, 1944. So, Mr. Alexander, we have a little in common. Have the same sign. I appreciate what you're doing up there in Palatka and encourage you to keep it up. Now you know what they're doing up in Palatka, Florida to honor all of their veterans, including Vietnam veterans. When you go over to the podcast website to look at the pictures in this episode, you will see a picture of Robert H. Jenkins, who gave his life for his fellow Marines. Can you imagine throwing yourself on a live hand grenade knowing that you are going to die soon to save your fellow Marines? I encourage everybody listening to this podcast to go over to the memorial's website and make a contribution. Vietnam veteran Daniel Rose, who is an artist, not only is doing the work at no cost, but he is contributing $100 to the foundation. So please consider making a contribution. It doesn't have to be $10,000. Doesn't have to be $1,000. Doesn't have to be $100. $10 would be greatly appreciated, and all those $10 would add up. And it helped them up there in Palatka get their mural project finished. When you look at these pictures, I think you'll be impressed. I'm impressed. I've decided to make a contribution, so why don't you follow my lead and send them some money? They would greatly appreciate it, and it would be a great way to honor our veterans. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. This is Mack Payne closing out episode 1769 of the Vietnam Veteran News Podcast. Thank you so much for coming to listen to these stories. You are cordially invited to return again soon and often to listen to more that will be coming your way on this podcast, the Vietnam Veteran News.
How about that? Ain't that a mess?